Using AI, your operations are, hopefully streamlined. The next question naturally becomes, how do you put those efficiency gains to work? Every institution wants deposit growth, but attracting customers at scale is only half the battle. You also need that digital experience ready for when the success arrives from bringing in those new customers or members. Today, we'll hear how bold marketing, a seamless digital experience, and the right operational foundation combined into a repeatable growth engine for Outdoor Bank. Without further ado, please welcome Bobby Sloan, Chief Marketing Officer at Outdoor Bank, joined by Julia Denha, General Manager at Narmi.
Thanks, Tom. We appreciate it. We are good to hit the next slide. Quick intros as we kind of get into things. I am Julia Denha, as mentioned, General Manager here at Narmi. I partner very closely with Bobby and his team, and we're really excited to dig into this. As mentioned as well, Bobby is the CMO of Outdoor Bank. He is going to really walk us through how this team built this deposit growth engine and not only doubled, but tripled their own expectations. So we'll kind of start off with some content that essentially went wild and viral, and ending with a very successful campaign. But before we jump in, we want to jump into a poll. So we would love to hear from all of you. What is the biggest obstacle standing between your marketing campaigns and real deposit growth? Could be getting content to convert, standing out in a crowded market, proving the ROI, or maybe the ops and infrastructure can't keep up. We will just give everyone a quick second here. And for what it's worth, there are no wrong answers. All righty. So the answer here with the most votes as of now is standing out in a crowded market. And in second is getting content to truly convert. So that being said, Bobby, what are your thoughts here? Standing out in a crowded market, how can we maybe give some advice here?
Yeah, it's one of the trickiest things I think in our industry. When I first got into marketing on the banking side, it's one of the first questions you ask is how do you stand out in a crowded market? And at the end of the day, there's so much parity in community banking and credit union banking. It's how do you truly stand out in the message and the brand? How do you create your signal inside of all the noise? The prospective customers are experiencing more noise in a day than we used to, years ago in a year. So it's a real challenge. And I think, for us, that was something we just tried to hone in on really, really acutely early on is what's our signal? How do we create our signal? And we'd gone through a rebrand in 2022 and really decided to lean very heavily into our brand from there. So it's a challenge I think we all face. Every marketer, there's only so much you can say, like, boy, you think your checking account's good? Come over and check out our checking account. You think your savings account is good? Wait till you see ours. There's only so much you can say to really move the needle. So we found, or at least made the decision to lean really heavily into brand and customer service and technology. And so far, so good on that front for us.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So before we kind of dig into the campaign itself and hone on to, what Outdoor Bank truly did, I want to kind of take a step back here. So can you give us a little background on yourself and truly Outdoor Bank? How did you end up as CMO? What did the bank look like when you came in? And how things have kind of been going since?
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Kansas, but I spent almost 12 years out in Southern California and Central California in the startup space, and particularly in the fintech space. But after kind of having my fun out there, I had moved back to Kansas. My family was all here, just outside the Kansas City area. And I was doing some consultings with various different startups and companies. And I was fortunate enough to get connected with the owners of at the time People State Bank, and they were going through some changes. They had just bought the bank and were wanting to grow, and it was just kind of a serendipitous connection. So I ended up coming in and uh, overseeing the rebrand from People State Bank to Outdoor Bank, and to the ownership's credit, we anybody that's been through a rebrand, you look at 100+ names, and it takes time to see what feels right. You got to sit with it for a while, and our ownership group, we're family owned, and fortunately they were willing to kind of take what I would consider a little bit of a risk on a bold name for a bank. We had some kind of standardized names, and they went with Outdoor Bank. It was always kind of sitting there, and it felt right for who we are, where we are in the communities in Kansas, spread across the entire state, 11 branches. So we went through that rebrand, and have been growing ever since.
I love it. So when you first kind of took on this rebrand, what were the major goals for Outdoor Bank? And what did the success that you all were driving for, what did that look like, and what actually happened?
Yeah, I think, like everybody wants deposits. You want those new deposits, you want those new accounts, you want to get them the right way and safely. And, with the rebrand, we wanted to lean into who we are as Kansans, as people in the Midwest. The ownership group is a cattle company here in the Midwest, and are just down to earth, salt of the earth people. So the outdoors was already a big part of all of our lives. That made it really easy to create a brand around. So the question then becomes, okay, you can grow the brand, you can drive eyeballs, but how do you actually get those things to convert? And I think we all know attribution is one of the hardest things to do sometimes in banking as well. But how do you get the right eyeballs at the right time and generate true engagement? Because again, I think inside of community bank marketing, oftentimes on social media, especially, it's easy to fall back into kind of the standard ways that everybody does things. Again, talking about just particular accounts, or pop into our branch because it's Cookie Friday, or whatever it is, and typically engagement's pretty low on those types of things. And that's what, before the rebrand, that's what the previous bank had been doing, and not shockingly, they didn't see much growth, didn't see any engagement. So we kind of wanted to flip that on its head from a marketing standpoint, and really focused on brand engagement and alignment with our base, and then go from there. So we do kind of a hub and spoke model, but I can get more into that as we go.
I love it. Perfect. So like you said, this is kind of why we're here, right? Can you kind of talk us through the timeline of the marketing campaign? And feel free to kind of to start with whoever makes sense to you.
Sure. So it was 2022 when we rebranded. It was the spring of 2022, and we were kind of getting our feet under us again with the rebrand. Everybody knows it takes some time. You coordinate as much as you can to roll everything out, and you got to make sure everything from your pins to your envelopes to everything is rebranded properly. And then we had 11 branches to redo. But as we kind of settled in a little bit, we started to hone in on, again, kind of our overall marketing strategy, which really was, brand engagement, really getting our name out there as much as possible to say this bank is not the old bank. It's new ownership. We're brand new in how we're approaching things, from customer service, technology, and then just our approach to how we engage with customers. So we're going through that, and I think, again, a lot of people on here can relate to this. It's kind of hard to know what to do to try to get your name out there and actually get engagement and differentiate yourself. And one day I was driving and I was passing a bunch of billboards, and it reminded me of an old marketing exercise that we used to do. That was the billboard exercise, and it was, if you had to put something on a billboard that could actually get somebody to actually read it and take an action, what would you put on that billboard? And that kind of started the whole thing in my mind. And I thought, well, if we've hidden $5,000 somewhere in Manhattan, follow us for clues, that would get my attention. So I latched onto that idea, and I ran straight home, and I put up a drone, did some filming real quick, and I put together a rough trailer, and I showed it to the owners, thinking that I might just get laughed out of the building. I wasn't sure what the response was going to be. It's a little bit unique, but they loved it. Again, to their credit, they loved it. So we went forward with it and launched it that year. It took off more quickly than I could have ever imagined. Yeah, I think we had 100,000 views, and the engagement was through the roof because we were releasing one clue each week in the form of a riddle to guide people to where the treasure was hidden. And I think it's important to note that it was kind of unique because this is on brand for us, getting people outdoors, using technology that we have, and we'll get into that, but using the technology to make your banking life easy and efficient, but also the importance of spending time outdoors and with your family and off of phones and off of technology. The banking will be here when you need it. The services are here when you need it. We make it easy. But we wanted to get people out in our areas. So it really latched on. The communities latched on way faster than we thought. And it was one of those things where you kind of have the idea, you put up the announcement, not sure what it's going to do. And then you're like, oh, now we have to actually do the whole thing. So then you have to actually write all the riddles and hide the treasure and do all the things. So that was year one, and year two, it got even bigger. Year three, it just got even bigger. And we have people driving from out of state to come and participate. We have people coming from across the state to come and participate in it. We've been told from some of the hotels that hotels get more full during the hunt. So it's a cool thing that you will love to have the idea of an experiential campaign that you're not sure what it's going to do. That's why it's you're guessing, but to have it actually latch on has been awesome. And so any of our employees who wear their outdoor bank swag or hats or anything around town, almost everybody gets stopped to ask about the hunt and when it's coming back and if it's coming back and all that. So it's a lot of fun.
I love it. And as someone from the Midwest, I can attest, right? Like that feels very Midwest to me, very homey. And what a great way to just get the community involved and get people excited. Like the fact people are coming in from out of state and everyone's excited and, maybe even a little giddy. It's really great to see. So overall, this brought in 300 new accounts in a single day, 300K plus in deposits, and 4 times the volume of overall monthly account openings. How did the team maybe feel as this volume came in? Did you all have the ops infrastructure ready? All kind of ready for this viral moment to come in? How did that kind of impact the bank overall?
Well, I'll kind of take you back to the first year. So the first year we did it again, just didn't kind of know what the experience was going to be like. And, we have a good team and yeah, they're doing everything manually. So that presents its own problems. But as we kind of said at the outset, I think one of the important things was, how do you actually convert, when you have something go viral and you have 100,000 people watching this, 100,000 views for a community bank. How do you handle that volume? How do you keep those people engaged? And so eventually we built this into what I would call more of a hub and spoke model where, we have the hunt in the fall and we have a photo contest in the spring, and both of them just have tremendously high engagement. So those act as our hubs. And the spokes that go around those are all the other things, kind of if you're in marketing, a peso model. So you're paid, earned, shared, owned media. And you retarget the people that are engaging with your campaigns via digital ads and even streaming ads, which we do as well. But even then, it was what's kind of the carrot that we could actually use to measure this. So we worked with the Narmi team, and had the idea to do a new account bonus to launch and coincide with the hunt this last year. So we rolled those out simultaneously. Again, the hunt was the hub, and then running this promotion, new account promotion, was one of the spokes off of that. So we worked with the Narmi team going into this, that, they had known about the hunt. We had talked about that leading up to it, but this last year it was time to implement something that could act as more of a carrot for engagement and conversion. So we worked with them very closely, our account opening team and review team, to prep for this as we went through. And as we got into the actual campaign, I think we hit our goal, our self-imposed goal of $100,000. We had no idea how much volume was going to come in. Again, you're pairing this as part of an experiential campaign, so you don't really know. When I was talking to the board, I just said, well, look, if we get 100 new accounts and $100,000, I'll be ecstatic. That would be great. And we hit that within 30 days of the campaign. And Julia, I think, a bunch of us were on that call and with Narmi, and they brought up our numbers, and we just saw, our account opening just, like a really good stock graph. It just suddenly went up like that, which is a great thing to see. And the board loves seeing that as well. So it was because of our relationship, with Narmi and being set up properly for it, that we were able to handle it and run the campaign the correct way and handle the volume.
No, absolutely. And I think that's a great segue into the next slide. So we'll wait for that there we go. And then one more, I think. Oh, sorry. So I think one big thing for us is the numbers behind this, right? You mentioned like the amount of views was crazy. I think we said something around like 6 million when we've connected on this in the past.
Yeah.
So again, you all beat that goal by 3 times. Was there a specific moment, maybe when, checking a dashboard or checking a report, or, maybe someone slacked you or teams you like, hey, heads up, this is working? When did it kind of actually hit you that this was bigger than what you had planned for?
Yeah, this last year, when we saw the number of the amount of traffic going to our landing page that we were linking to from the campaign, so the ads that were surrounding it, when we saw the traffic actually converting from social, where this campaign is run, to our website and to the Narmi online account opening, we tracked it all the way through. So we really were able to capture top of funnel and ultimate conversion, which is kind of hard to do sometimes in bank marketing. So we could see pretty quickly that we were getting a significant spike in traffic to that landing page. And then we saw those starting to convert on the actual account opening side. And the account opening team reached out to me and said, there's accounts opening. People are opening accounts. And we could see it in the responses too, which was another, again, you just don't know how people are going to react to certain things. They're engaged on a particular part of a campaign, but you're kind of sprinkling in other things that you do, so that they know who Outdoor Bank is and what our offerings are. But they were actually talking about it, about taking advantage of a new account. They had been thinking about moving anyway. But this was the thing that kind of put them over the edge to actually move and open an account with us. And because we had removed friction from the process due to our relationship with Narmi and the online account opening, our team wasn't trying to hand send PDFs to open up an account and have somebody fill it out and try to email it back. So it expedited that whole process, made it a lot more efficient, removed friction for the users. And the new account bonus, it gave them just kind of that final excuse. From the last couple of years of the hunt, we saw so many people talking about, I'm going to open an account with Outdoor Bank. We love this. They're getting our family outside. My kids are putting down the phone, and it's all because this bank is doing this thing, but they hadn't moved, so some of them just needed that last little push. And so, it was within, the first week or so, we started seeing the spike. And then, I mean, within a month, we had crossed our initial goal, and then we had triple X'd it by the end.
That's awesome. So you mentioned you were able to kind of bring in these stragglers that, oh yeah, I've been interested and I just haven't done it yet. Was this a new vertical for you all when it comes to who was opening accounts, or any specific maybe group that maybe wouldn't have found Outdoor Bank otherwise from this campaign?
I wouldn't say they were a new vertical necessarily. They were still people in our communities. As a community bank, that's who we target and market to, and it's again kind of a benefit of the campaign itself. It drives engagement from the communities, so it was just more of them. It was more of them that were again kind of on the fence, and I do think one of the unique things, just as far as markets go. More well-qualified customers, or what you might call higher-end customers, they were as equally engaged in it as, somebody who was just tagging along because they wanted, a new account bonus to open. And again, I think that's a bonus to this type of hub and spoke type of campaign, because people were engaged because of the campaign and what they were doing as part of it, looking forward to that clue every Friday, trying to solve it with their friends and family members. So they knew that this was Outdoor Bank. This wasn't something that we just sponsored or were tagging along on as another logo that we gave somebody else. This was our thing that we created. So to be able to see people of all parts of society engaging in it was really, really one of the cool things. It wasn't just people that were trying to take advantage of that bonus. For a lot of them, it was just, well, you know what, it's time. We've talked about it. It's easy to move. Let's just open our account. And that was one of the things that's just been really cool about this campaign and pairing it with that promo this last year.
Great. I want to kind of coin this now as Bobby's advice corner. Okay. So if someone on this call is sitting here and thinking, wow, like I want to try something like this at my financial institution, where would you suggest even starting with creating a campaign like this?
Yeah, I think, Seth Godin's book, the Purple Cow, was one of the things that I read years ago. And anything by Rory Sutherfield, he's the head of Ogilvy marketing advertising. I think there is such a trend in the world to talk about what you do and to talk about product, and in banking it's so tempting. You just want to talk about rate and some of the bonuses and things like that. But at the end of the day, if you know your market, your target market, really leaning into brand and talking to them directly in a more human way, you can never go wrong doing that. The noise is so loud. If you go back to first principles about who you are, talk about your bank, the benefits you have to the community, the benefits you give to the community, and your people, I think there's always an advantage there. During the hunt, especially the first couple of years, the hunt is not about banking. The hunt is about getting people outside to enjoy this beautiful area that we live in, and all the trails and these hidden things and the history that they may not even know about. There's a little Indiana Jones in all of us, I think, and at least there was in me, and that's why I thought it was a good idea. But they seem to agree. But that wasn't about banking. That was about creating an experience. And the banking was on the back end of that, because that's who the bank is. We are the people that love to be outside and take care of our neighbors and our communities. The hunt just was a version of that brought to life and offline. So I think anytime you can lean into who you are as a bank and your impact on communities, you can't go wrong.
I think that's perfect advice. One last question for you before we head into Q&A. You've got the 2026 campaign coming up. Is there anything you all are doing differently this time around? Any learnings from past where you're like, yep, we've got to move and implement that?
Yeah, we haven't decided everything about the program yet. It is coming soon. So, we're juggling a couple of our final options here. But as far as the campaign itself, we continue to grow it each year. So, the areas and the communities that are inside of it, we grow each year. The level of engagement, as we've said, continues to go up. But I think there's always an opportunity to do things. I don't even want to say the next level, but to do them better. So allowing more engagement through an app that we're building specifically for the hunt, where people can track all the new places that they discovered and collect, tokens as they go and discover new communities and new places. So leaning into technology to help people engage with the hunt on a deeper level, and take their own pictures and things like that. But also that leads back to online account opening through the app. So there's a through line where we're increasing the engagement and the way people are interacting with our bank and our brand. But it's still, at the end of the day, we're a business, and we do want people to come and actually bank with us and experience the outdoor bank difference. So it's not necessarily always about making it bigger and more grand, although I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that, but you can always do things better. The analogy that I used to use to our team was, Airbnb, when they were growing really early on, they were having trouble with some of the hosts weren't as clean, or it didn't live up to the hype when somebody would stay there. And so they use the mental exercise of, what's a 1-star experience look like, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, but they would keep going and take it up to, a 10-star experience. What's it look like when you're staying at Airbnb? Like, you fly in private, and when you land, AC/DC is playing live, and the local marching band is there, and there's a personal Michelin chef there for you. But if you back off from that, you might find yourself landing at a 5 or a 6-star experience for your customers. And that's something we try to keep in mind. I've got whiteboards all over my office, and mental exercises like that, just like the billboard mental exercise, are things that keep me trying to stay out of what I think is kind of the parity in our markets. So I think there's always an advantage to thinking outside the box.
Fantastic. All right, we have one Q&A question and 1 minute left, so this is perfect timing. How involved was your compliance and legal team for this type of content?
Very. Yeah. Especially when I first had the concept, I had to go straight to legal and compliance and have them clear it and make sure I wasn't doing anything that wasn't compliant. And they've been involved throughout the entire process. Now we're a few years in, so of course they know when it's coming and that it's coming. And you always get some people. It's one of the things about going viral, at least locally viral. You're always going to have somebody that wants to be a stick in the mud. The first year, it was some guy complaining that, well, why doesn't every business just do that? What if we just had all these people outside willy-nilly? And I mean, I was like, well, I think that might be a good thing. But anyway, you want to have your legal and compliance very involved throughout the process. And had to do that from the beginning.
I love it. Well, Bobby, thank you so much. Appreciate you and your time here today. We will pass it back to the Narmi team, and